What if fitting in wasn't about your grades, talents, or how many friends you had? What if it came down to how you looked, who your parents were, or the color of your skin? At Ridgeway Academy, these weren't just passing thoughts. They were the reality that Maya Sinclair faced every single day. Ridgeway was known for its money, its traditions, and its exclusive atmosphere. It was a school that made Maya feel like she didn't belong. She was different, and everyone there knew it. As Maya stepped into the noisy cafeteria with her lunch tray in hand, the feeling of being an outsider weighed heavily on her. She had gotten used to the stares, the whispers, and the quiet judgment that followed her everywhere. It didn't matter that she had earned her spot. She was one of the only black students at Ridgeway, and that alone set her apart. She didn't come from money. Her last name wasn't one of the ones on the school's plaques. She didn't wear name-brand clothes. But she had worked hard. Straight A's, leadership and debate. She deserved to be there. Still, none of that seemed to matter when Blake Kingsley was nearby. Blake was everything Ridgeway celebrated. Blonde hair, fancy clothes, and a smug confidence that everyone seemed to admire. His last name was on the building. His family gave money to every school event, and he walked around like the school belonged to him. To Maya, Blake represented every privilege she'd never have. Just as she was about to sit down, Blake's voice echoed across the room, thick with sarcasm. Well, he called out, smirking. Look who thinks she fits in here. Maya felt the sting of his words before even looking up. She kept her head down, focusing on her tray, trying to ignore the tension rising around her. This wasn't the first time. Blake's cruel laugh filled the air, joined by a few of his friends. Did you sneak in for a free lunch? Or did they let you in just for today? He jeered. Did they have to lower the bar so someone like you could get in? Laughter spread to the cafeteria, and Maya felt a familiar burn of embarrassment rise up her neck. She clenched her jaw, holding back the words she wanted so badly to say. She had heard it all before. Every room she entered. Every time she tried to belong, someone reminded her that she didn't. I paid for my lunch, Maya said, her voice calm but firm, even though her stomach churned, just like everyone else. Blake laughed even louder. Oh, sure, I bet you did, he sneered. With what? Your merit. Maya's stomach twisted, but she didn't look away. She had heard these words too many times, and she wasn't going to let him win. You think you can just show up here like you belong? Blake scoffed. Everyone knows you're just a charity case. His words cut deep, but Maya didn't let it show. For years, people had told her she didn't deserve to be there, that she wasn't enough, that she was just there to fill a quota. But today, she was done staying silent. Let's talk about privilege, Blake, Maya said, her voice slicing through the air. You want to talk about earning your place? Fine, but you're here because your parents pay for buildings. They buy your spot. You didn't earn anything. For a second, Blake was frozen. His smirk faded, his confidence slipping as he tried to process what she had just said. The cafeteria went quiet, his laughter replaced by awkward whispers. You want to talk about competition? Maya pressed on, standing tall. You don't know what it's like to fight for a place here. You don't know what it means to work every single day just to prove you belong. So don't talk to me about earning anything. Blake's face turned red, his jaw tightening. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. For the first time, Blake Kingsley had nothing to say. The cafeteria was still, everyone staring, waiting to see what would happen. Before Blake could speak, the cafeteria doors swung open. Principal Stevenson stepped in, his presence immediately commanding attention. Suddenly, everything went silent. Blake froze, and all the color drained from his face. Maya crossed her arms and stood tall, a quiet confidence on her face. You were saying, Blake? She asked softly, but there was victory in her tone. Blake opened his mouth, but nothing came out. The same whispers that used to trail behind Maya now filled the air, but this time they were about him. Principal Stevenson cleared his throat and turned to Blake, his voice firm. Blake Kingsley, effective immediately, you are banned from the cafeteria. Maybe missing a few meals will teach you some humility. The room stayed silent as the words hit Blake like a punch. He stood there, stunned, not knowing what to do. Maya didn't move, but a tiny smile played at the corner of her lips. Justice had finally caught up. The students began whispering again, some shocked, some quietly pleased. Blake's flawless reputation had shattered in an instant. As for Maya, she knew this moment was just the beginning. She stood there, watching Blake, his face red, his mouth opening and closing, trying to speak but failing. She felt a deep sense of satisfaction, but she didn't let herself show it. She didn't want to give him that. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proving a point, one that had been ignored for far too long. Everyone was still frozen in place as Principal Stevenson turned and left the cafeteria, his footsteps echoing in the silence. Maya took a deep breath, trying to calm the rush of emotions inside her. She had just scored a big win over someone who had made her life miserable for so long. But she knew better than to get carried away. She glanced at Blake again. His eyes were darting around the cafeteria, his mind clearly racing. He wasn't used to being embarrassed. And now, everyone had seen his power crumble. "Well," Maya said, her voice steady and calm, "weren't you saying something about earning your place?" She wasn't trying to be cruel. Not anymore. But she couldn't hold back. For the first time in years, she felt strong enough to look him in the eye without fear. Blake didn't respond. He looked around at the faces staring back at him, and for once, he seemed unsure, lost. The laughter and stares that had once followed Maya now followed him. "You might want to head to the back table, Blake," Maya added, her tone calm but firm. "It suits you better now. You know, the outsider's table." There was a bit of pride in her voice, but not because she wanted revenge. It was about showing him what it felt like. Even just for a moment, Blake didn't say a word. His face showed anger, confusion, and shame all at once. He turned away with slumped shoulders and walked slowly to the back of the cafeteria. The confidence he usually carried was completely gone. Maya felt a flicker of guilt, but only for a second. After everything she had been through, she didn't have much sympathy to spare. Slowly, the cafeteria came back to life. The tension eased. The students who once whispered behind Maya's back now looked at her differently, as if they were finally seeing her for who she really was. No more teasing. No more side glances. For once, she wasn't the girl who didn't belong. She was a girl who stood up, not just for herself, but for everyone who had ever been overlooked or pushed aside. But when she sat down at her usual table, something unexpected settled over her. Doubt. The victory didn't feel as sweet as she thought it would. Maya had dreamed of this kind of moment for so long, but now that it had happened, she wasn't sure what to do next. "You okay?" The voice pulled her out of her thoughts. She looked up and saw Jasmine standing next to her. Jasmine had been quiet during the whole thing, but Maya knew she had her back. Maya nodded and gave a small smile. "Yeah, just trying to take it all in." Jasmine sat beside her, her eyes scanning the room. "You did good, Maya. People finally see who you are, not just the label they try to put on you." But Maya didn't share the excitement. She knew the fight wasn't over. As proud as she was of how she handled today, it wasn't going to fix everything. It wouldn't erase the judgment or the battles that were still ahead. She glanced over at Blake. He sat alone at the back, poking at his food but not eating. He didn't look like the same Blake Kingsley from earlier. His arrogance was gone. But Maya knew this wasn't the end of him. Not yet. His ego would recover. He'd find new ways to challenge her. That's just who he was. Still, Maya had learned something important today. Something she hadn't expected to learn in the middle of a school lunchroom. It's not about winning every fight. It's about standing your ground when it really counts. The rest of lunch passed quietly. For once, Maya ate in peace, without feeling everyone's eyes on her. Blake's empty seat at the popular table was a small win, but the reality of it all still weighed on her. Things had shifted, yes, but it wasn't over. More battles were coming, harder ones, but she was ready for them now. After lunch, as she walked toward her next class, Maya couldn't stop thinking about her place at Ridgeway Academy. She had always felt like she didn't belong, like she was too different. But today, for the first time, she realized something. Maybe being different wasn't a weakness. Maybe it was her greatest strength. And just maybe her time had finally come.